KONTOUR's 5 effects are located at the bottom of the interface: the cabinet, gap filter, flanger, echo, and reverb. To get an understanding of how these are routed together, let's look at the block diagram. After the mix module, the signal goes into the global shaper, and then into the cabinet, and then the gap filter. Up to then, it's a mono signal, and the gap filter outputs a stereo signal, which remains stereo through the flanger, the echo, the reverb, and to the output. You'll notice the feedback path as well coming out of the effects chain. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The effects can all be turned on and off by either clicking on the button or on their name, and they all have mix sliders here, so mix faders, so we can adjust how much of the effect will be in the signal. In addition, if we go into the A window, we have the same possibilities of turning on and off the effects and adjusting their mix in the output. The cabinet is similar to a guitar amp and adds distortion to the sound. But what's interesting is when you play two sounds together, you get the intermodulation that is well known by guitarists. So if I turn up the sustain a little bit here, level is of course the amount of amplification here, and tilt is a sort of, well, you can look at it as a kind of, well, going to the left we'll have a little bit more low end, and going to the right a little bit more high end. And we also have a high cut right here. If we want a real spectrally rich sound, we turn up the tilt a little bit. The gap filter is a very special effect in KONTOUR, and it consists of 4 4-pole filters, 2 on each stereo channel. So on the left side there's a 4-pole high pass and a 4-pole low pass, and the same on the right side. To better hear the effect of the gap filter, I'm going to put in some self-modulation here, and I'll put this all the way up into the mix. Here is our cutoff frequency of all the filters, and they move relatively. You can see the actual gap here in this graphic, and you hear it much better when I open the gap. You can hear the gap very strongly there. Or I can close it and even make a sort of a band filter here, a band pass. And I can move the balance. So turn it into a high-pass filter or a low-pass filter by turning the balance all the way down this way, for example. All the way down. So it's extremely flexible with just these 4 parameters right here. The flanger adds a lot of stereo space to the sound. It's a well-known effect in synthesizers. Let me turn it on here. And I'll grab a little bit of spectrum here and put it into the mix. And the 4 parameters here, you probably know that the depth, it's the amount of modulation of the delay line of the flanger, and this is the speed of it, and the overall time of the delay. And the feedback, there's positive feedback and negative feedback, which will emphasize different spectral content. Like the flanger, the echo is also a kind of a stereo enhancing effect. And I'll put it on here in my default sound. And you can hear this kind of typical delay sound here. If I put up the time, it's obviously going to be longer. And the feedback here is how long the echo effect is going to last. So here I have it turned up pretty far. And I have a high cut as well. Maybe we can hear this better. Right here. You can hear at each echo there's some of the high frequencies that are attenuated. And here we have some stereo as well. And if I click here, then I can adjust the echo time according to divisions that are related to my clock time of my DAW or of reactor if I'm in standalone mode. Finally, let's have a look at reverb. Here I have the reverb on with a very small room, but if I turn this up a little bit and even put it more into the mix, you can hear quite a lot happening here. The high cut takes out the higher frequencies through time. And the low cut does the opposite with cuts the low frequencies, obviously. Now, the chorus is something you might be curious about. What's a chorus doing in a reverb? Well, actually, almost in all reverbs, there's a chorus diffusion that's built in. And you usually, as a user, don't have any control over this. But if we turn this down, Kontour's reverb will sound a lot more metallic. But that can be very useful when we're using it with the feedback going on here, which we'll see in just a minute. So we want a more diffused, more creamy sound. We'll turn up the chorus. And this makes it sound much less metallic. A big part of the central character of Kontour has to do with how it deals with feedback. Now, there's local feedback, which we've looked at with for example, the decay time, or the decay amount in the comb filter, as well as self-modulation happening in the oscillators. But there's also a global feedback. Here's a simple example of using feedback. I have the feedback amount here going back into the oscillator from the feedback mix here. So if I turn up my effects so that I'm going to grab the reverb here and turn it on, and I'm going to put my chorus all the way down so I have a very pure, kind of non-diffuse reverb sound. This is my basic sound without feedback. Now I'm going to turn up the feedback. Once again, referring to the block diagram, we can really see what's happening with the feedback here and where the signal is coming from and going to. You see the feedback mixer here with the comb filter, the state variable filter, and the effects. We can adjust the amount of reverb coming into the effects as well. And then the feedback goes into the two oscillators and can be adjusted by the crossfader. Feedback can be very unpredictable, but at the same time, it can add a lot of character and a lot of movement to your sounds and to your music. That concludes our video on Kontour's effects. I'm Brian Smith from Big Brain Audio. Thanks for watching.